Chapter 1197. The old man looked shrewd and wretched. He glanced at Luo Qingtong and waved his sleeve. What? The elder of the Cheng clan was still waiting for Elder Pan to vent his anger for them. When he heard Elder Pan's words, he immediately shouted, "Elder Pan, didn't we agree on this? You will help us get rid of the heavenly diabolism and we will reward you." The elder from the Cheng family did not expect Elder Pan to ask the heavenly diabolism to scram. Did this mean that they could not avenge themselves? More importantly, once the heavenly diabolism left, they would tell Blackfield and evil Dr. Ghost Eye about this. The Cheng family would be finished in the Sunrise Country. The elder from the Cheng family became anxious at the thought of this. As soon as he spoke, Elder Pan from the Southern Domain sect let out a cold harumph. He raised his hand and a gust of wind shot out. In an instant, the elder from the Cheng clan, who had just crawled up from the ground, was sent flying again. "Do I need you to tell me what to do?" Elder Pan from the southern region sneered at the elder from the Cheng family and said, "I did agree to help you get rid of the heavenly diabolism. However, that was based on the fact that you won. Now, what kind of battle is this? You've lost your lives to others. I've saved your lives, so I'm already worthy of this reward. Do you still want me to deal with the heavenly diabolism?" Elder Pan coldly snorted. In fact, he felt that Luo Qingtong's ability was extraordinary. She might be a genius disciple secretly groomed by some big faction and went out to gain experience. In addition, the man's ordinary face gave him an inexplicable sense of familiarity. This Elder Pan felt that it was better for him to be a little more cautious. It would be better if he just chased them away. He should not go too far with her. With this thought, he waved his hand and said, "All right, you heavenly diabolism, scram. Otherwise I will change my mind." Elder Pan. The elder from the Cheng clan was anxious. He didn't care about the blood on his head and his sorry figure as he hurriedly said, "Elder Pan, you can't. Please make a move. We, the Cheng family, are willing to pay twice as much. I'm not in a good mood today, so I'm not going to fight anymore. If your Cheng clan wants to deal with them, do it yourself." Elder Pan looked at Luo Qingtong and the others and said, "What? Why aren't you guys scramming?" "If you don't scram, I'm going to attack," Elder Pan said. He didn't want to go too far with the other party. But if the other party insisted on not leaving, then for the sake of his own face, he would have to make a move against the other party. Just as Elder Pan's words rang out, Yu Xingqi's crisp voice sounded from outside the door. "Really? How impressive and domineering. May I know which part of the southern domain you're from, and which sect's elder? Tell me your name so that my brother and I can see who is so powerful that he dares to treat my sister like this. Brother Jiao, you're being rude." Chapter 1198. Yu Xingqi had been left outside by Luo Qingtong to wait for Xuanhuan. Now that the latter had come back from teaching people a lesson, they all stepped into the hall together. Seeing Luo Qingtong and the other Qing family members confronting each other, Xuanhuan slightly knit his brows. He didn't think that Luo Qingtong needed to spend too much energy to deal with a small upper-class country's aristocratic family. So, there was a variable in this? His eyes swept around and immediately saw Elder Pan, who was standing in front of the Qing family members but was completely ignored by him because of his height. King. That Elder Pan, when Xuanhuan and Yu Xingqi walked into the hall together, his eyes had already popped out. My mother? This was the king of the southern region's 3 islands and 7 lands, the sect master of the imperial sect. If it wasn't for Xuanhuang's iconic evildoer face that didn't change and Yu Xingqi, this little devil girl by his side, Elder Pan would have thought that he had recognized the wrong person. How did King become like this? Elder Pan's eyes widened as he looked at Xuanhuang's head full of vermilion hairpins and cloud hair, swaying as he walked, captivating the soul. My mother? Elder Pan looked at everyone's stunned eyes staring at Xuanhuang's body and didn't know what to say. King. What kind of stimulation did you receive? Sect Master. Have you ever thought that as the head of the 3 islands and 7 lands, the sect master of the imperial sect, this hobby of dressing up as a woman and walking in front of people is very inappropriate? Elder Pan's eyes popped out. The elder of the Cheng clan shouted loudly as if he had caught hold of something that could be used against him. Elder Pan, they are in cahoots with that Yi Jiao. They are deliberately looking down on you. Speaking up to hear, he let out a long breath. Being despised and looked down on like this Elder Pan should want to make a move and kill all of Tianxia's people, right? Aha. That Yi Jiao's 2 friends were really their Qing family's god helpers. Originally, Elder Pan was already prepared to not care about their Qing family and Tianxia's matters. Now that the two of them had appeared and said such words, how could Elder Pan possibly spare them? Not to mention the contempt in their words towards Elder Pan and the southern region sect behind him. That Qing family elder was proud in his heart, and sneered at Yu Xingqi and Yu Xihuang. You two women, what do you know? This is an elder of the southern region's 3 islands and 7 lands shocking heaven gate. Among the 3 islands and 7 lands, the shocking sky sect's strength is one of the best. Elder Pan is the person in charge of the startling sky sect's forces in the western wastelands. His strength and prestige in the startling sky sect is extremely high. How dare you disrespect Elder Pan? You must be tired of living. That Chung clan elder's face was filled with arrogance and disdain. What he didn't know was that Elder Pan's heart was about to collapse when he heard his words. That wretched and shrewd old face was completely green, black and green. Bang. Without waiting for Yu Xihuang and Yu Xingqi to say anything, that Elder Pan had already rushed in front of them, and fiercely slapped that Qing family elder's face. Boom boom boom. A burst of explosive sounds. That Chung clan elder was instantly sent spinning on the spot by Elder Pan's slap. Then he was fiercely sent flying. Chapter 1199. At the sight of such a scene, all the other members of Qing clan who were echoing the words of that elder were dumbfounded and dumbfounded. What was going on? Did that Elder Pan make a mistake? Even if he wanted to flip out, he should be targeting xianxia and Yizhou. Why would he make a move against their Qing family elders? The Qing family members were at a loss as they looked at Elder Pan, who suddenly flipped out. The latter fiercely slapped the Qing family elder and sent him flying. After not knowing if he was dead or alive, he quickly lowered his head and said to Luo Qingtong and the others, "I'm sorry, Master Jiao. This time I had eyes but couldn't see. Please don't lower yourself to my level. These Qing family people, I'll immediately take care of them for you. As for the things they gave me, I'll give them all to xianxia as an apology for offending you this time." Cold sweat broke out on Elder Pan's forehead. He was really going to be killed by the Qing family. They dared to call the king a woman. They even said they knew something. That was fine. They even boasted about him and the shocking heaven sect in front of the other party. If it was the previous Yu Xihuang, it would be fine. Although the imperial sect had a large influence in the 3 islands and 7 lands, Yu Xihuang was suffering from a heart disease. He wanted to unify the 3 islands and 7 lands, but he was powerless. He was almost killed by the Silver Sword people. But it was different now. The Silver Sword people couldn't kill Yu Xihuang and instead allowed the latter to obtain an opportunity. His heart disease was cured and he came back to destroy the Silver Sword. The entire 3 islands and 7 lands were now under Yu Xihuang's control. The other party's strength was also constantly increasing. In this kind of situation, the Qing family people actually boasted about how strong the shocking heaven sect was in front of the king of the southern mountain range. This was simply trying to kill them. Elder Pan hated that he couldn't just choke the Qing family people to death. They caused him to go against the sect master. He couldn't kill them. Elder Pan's face was filled with killing intent. He didn't dare plead for mercy to Yu Xihuang. The latter was still dressed as a woman. If the latter's identity was exposed, there was no need for him to beg for mercy. He could just wait for death with the entire shocking heaven sect. Therefore he could only place his hopes on Luo Qingtong. It could be seen that Yu Xihuang and Yu Xingqi attached great importance to this Yizhou. And just now, Yu Xingqi opened his mouth to support Luo Qingtong. With this thought in mind, he lowered his posture in front of Luo Qingtong. Looking at this scene, the whole place fell silent. The onlookers didn't expect things to turn out this way. Who exactly was this Yizhou? To actually cause this Elder Pan of the southern region's 3 islands and 7 lands heaven-shocking sect to lower his head respectfully? While everyone was secretly guessing and shocked, Luo Qingtong looked indifferently at Elder Pan. "Since you didn't make a move this time, I'll let this go. You've dealt with these Qing family people. The Qing family's influence in the western wilderness, not a single one will be left." Luo Qingtong's voice was cold. That Elder Pan hurriedly complied. His gaze glanced at Yu Xingqi and Yu Xihuang. Seeing that they didn't have any objections, he immediately rejoiced that he made the right bet. This Yizhou was indeed able to influence their decision. Chapter 1200. The faces of the Qing family members were extremely ugly. They did not know what was going on. Wasn't Elder Pan the backer that the Qing clan had invited? The other side had clearly agreed to the Qing family's conditions and wanted to make a move against xianxia. Not only did he not make a move, he even wanted to destroy their Qing family. Everyone's faces turned pale. A core disciple of the Qing family quickly said, Elder Pan, don't forget you accepted that buy. Before he could finish his words, Elder Pan had already waved his hand fiercely, chopping off his head. Humph! Kill everyone from the Qing family, don't leave a single one alive. Elder Pan's face was cold. The deal between him and the Qing family was indeed because of someone pulling the strings. That person was the Bai family's young master from Savage City in the western desolate region, Bai Jintang. But that was in the past. Moreover, he did not know that Xianxia had a relationship with Xuanhuan at that time. With Xuanhuan here, not to mention the Bai family's young master, even if the entire Bai family was here, he would not be able to go against Xianxia. The Qing family actually wanted to use Bai Jintang to pressure him. Instantly, the killing intent in Elder Pan's heart became even stronger. He directly waved his hand. Immediately, in the private room on the second floor, the trusted subordinates of the Shocking Heaven sect that followed him jumped down and began to massacre the Qing family members. The original backer had turned into a death god. The Qing family members could not react in time and all of them died under the hands of the Shocking Heaven sect. They cried out and begged for mercy, but Su Yu and the others did not even care about them. How the Qing family treated them before was still vivid in their minds. Not to mention the miserable state of the Su family's generals in front of them. The Qing family members all deserved to die. If it wasn't for Luo Qingtong coming this time, Su Yu and the others would be controlled by others. Adding in the presence of Elder Pan and the Shocking Heaven sect, who knew how many losses Xianxia would have suffered. Perhaps the entire Xianxia would have died here. In this kind of situation, how could Su Yu and the others spare the Qing family members? Since the other side wanted to deal with them before, then they would have to properly taste this bitter fruit. Let's go. Luo Qingtong's face was calm. She brought Su Yu and the others out of the dark arena. Yu Huang and Yu Xingqi followed by her side. As they walked out of the hall. Just then, an elder in a dark arena uniform chased up from behind and called Luo Qingtong, "Mr. Yi Jiuyi, please wait a moment. Your humble servant is the manager of the Dark Colors Arena." He Jiuyi Jiuyi Yi Jiuyi Yi. Foreign dignitary? Luo Qingtong raised her brows and looked at him. Yes. The deacon of the Dark Colosseum smiled and said, "Our Dark Colosseum likes to invite experts from all walks of life to become our guest elders. If you become a guest elder of our Dark Color Arena, young Master Yi will not be restricted in any way. On the contrary, if you become a guest elder of our Dark Color Arena, you can enjoy VIP treatment in our Dark Color Arena." Chapter 1201. In addition, if Gongzi encounters any trouble or difficulties outside, by virtue of your status as a guest, you can ask our Dark Color Arena for help. But there is only one free chance a year. At other times, if Gongzi wants to use our Dark Color Arena's strength, you have to use contribution points to exchange. The deacon of the Dark Colored Arena smiled and said, "Young master, when our Dark Colored Arena needs you, you can take part in a literary battle for us. Every time you win, you'll get a chance to fight for our Dark Colored Arena. You can use it to ask our Dark Colored Arena to do anything we can." So many benefits? Luo Qingtong looked at the Dark Color Arena's deacon. To be honest, she was also very interested in this Dark Color Arena. Not to mention other things, the literary battle method was really very original. It was similar to the Roman Colosseum's primitive and bloody battle, but it could also satisfy the participants' heart's brutality, and it would not cause any harm to the opponent. Just based on this point, who knows how many people would be attracted to come and gamble. More importantly, the other party's special tool for the literary battle was really not ordinary. Luo Qingtong guessed that there must be a saint-level tool refiner or above behind the other party. Luo Qingtong was very interested in that tool. If this thing was used well and improved, it would definitely be a great tool for training soldiers. However, the person who refined the tool had added a trace of divine sense, and it was connected to the other party's mind. Luo Qingtong was unable to analyze the tool's composition and refining method. Otherwise, the other party would capture her aura. Moreover, with her current strength, it was not enough to refine this special tool. As a result, Luo Qingtong wanted to join the other party and see if she could get some of these special tools. But thinking of the guest's request, which was to help them in the literary battle when they needed it, Luo Qingtong immediately gave up on this idea. She had too many things to do and might not have the time. Forget it. Thinking like this, she wanted to refuse. At this time, Yu Huang's voice sounded in her ear. "You can agree. Behind the Dark Color Arena, there are people from the hidden world. You will enter the hidden world sooner or later. If you agree to his request, it will be good for you and your subordinates. As for his request for the literary battle, it is not mandatory. Just agree to it. When he asks you to go to the literary battle, you will go if you have time. If you don't have time, don't go. As far as I know, the dark colors only do this once a year. They gather all the guest elders of the Wendul and ask them to help with the Wendul. And from the last time, it has been just a few days. Yu Xihuang's voice is suddenly Luo Qingtong, of course Luo Qingtong's Luo Qingtong. As the lord of the southern region's 3 islands and 7 lands, he would definitely know more about these matters than he did of SA's words. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed. If the dark color was really related to the hidden world, then there was absolutely no harm in becoming a guest. Luo Qingtong did not forget that she had to go to the hidden world to find news about her father and mother. Not to mention that her mother was from the outside world, she might not necessarily go to the hidden world. But her father, as a person from the true Spill continent, would definitely go to the hidden world to find her. Chapter 1202. Luo Qingtong thought so and immediately said to the deacon of the dark-colored arena, "Okay." As she spoke, she raised her hand and took the guest elder token from the deacon. The latter also had a face full of confidence and didn't think that Luo Qingtong would refuse their request. When he explained to Luo Qingtong, the guest official token was already prepared. When Luo Qingtong agreed, he directly handed it over. Luo Qingtong looked at the 2 words Yi Jiao engraved on it and smiled slightly. You dark-colored arena people are really confident. Even the token was made on the spot. They weren't afraid that she wouldn't agree. We dark-colored arena people believe in our strength. Of course we also believe in your choice. It won't be wrong. The deacon of the dark-colored arena said with a smile. Guest official Yi, take care. He said, slightly bowed to Luo Qingtong and then retreated. Looking at his back, Luo Qingtong's heart was somewhat pensive. It seemed that the dark-colored arena people attached great importance to the Wendul. They invited so many guest chamberlains to the hidden world to compete? It was likely that there were some benefits involved in this. But this had nothing to do with Luo Qingtong for the time being. According to what Yu Xihuang said, the last guest official Wendul just ended not long ago. Even if the dark-colored people wanted to invite people to the Wendul, it would take at least half a year. Luo Qingtong thought so and immediately put away the dark-colored guest official token in her hand. Tong tong. Yu Xihuang swayed his hair and walked in front of Luo Qingtong. Just as he was about to say something, the young man smiled and used the sword hilt to press against the weak spot on his waist. Don't call me that disgusting. What tong tong? Luo Qingtong only felt goosebumps rising. Yi Qianxian didn't call her that. This Yu Xihuang could also do it. Luo Qingtong looked at his body swaying gracefully in amorous appearance and her lips twitched. She suddenly had a very strong feeling, and that was, agreeing with Yu Xihuang to travel with her, was definitely a very big mistake. Especially for her. Annoying. Isn't this showing off my daughter's delicate appearance? Otherwise why would I dress up like this? Yu Xihuang threw the handkerchief in his hand at her with a coquettish face. He had a sad face before, thinking that his sister's idea of him dressing up as a woman was too deceitful. It destroyed his image as the future overlord of the 3 islands and 7 lands. But now looking at Luo Qingtong's reaction, he suddenly felt that this idea wasn't bad. At least compared to when he and Luo Qingtong first met, the other person's face was not so cold and her face was Face's face. Yu Xihuang prepared to continue to try and get closer to her. It was rare that Yi Qianxian, that demon god, wasn't here, so he naturally wanted to seize this opportunity. Thinking like this, he suddenly looked at Luo Qingtong with a bitter face and said, Tong Tong, you're too much. You're simply throwing me away after using me. You heartless man. I even helped you just now. Naturally, Yu Xihuang was talking about Elder Pan. Originally, he was still considering whether to kill the other person to silence him. Who let the other person see his current appearance and know his identity. But that Elder Pan was smart, directly sticking to Luo Qingtong. The latter said to spare his life, so Yu Xihuang didn't care. After the other person felt his murderous aura, he didn't dare to go back and talk about it. Chapter 1203. Yu Xihuang's current appearance was really pitiful. He looked exactly like a pitiful woman who was abandoned. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched fiercely. She wanted to ask him if he was addicted to acting. When she was free, she would find a brothel for him to act as a top courtesan. Only then would his evil and enchanting face not be wasted. Luo Qingtong thought like this. She glanced at him angrily. Then she said to Su Yu and the others, Let's go. Let's just let him act alone. She was not going to accompany him. As for the favor? She cured his heart disease before and saved his life. How many favors did she owe him? He was not done yet. And he wanted her to repay him? Luo Qingtong simply turned around. Su Yu and the others looked at Xuanhuan with sympathy. Then they immediately followed her footsteps. Hey, such a beautiful girl, how could she fall in love with their master? Their master was a woman. He was definitely going to be a heartless man. The group of people did not know the identity of Xuanhuan and Xingqi. They immediately sighed in their hearts. But after knowing Xuanhuang's identity, they suddenly felt like they were struck by lightning. It was simply overturning their worldview. When Xuanhuang saw Luo Qingtong and the others leave, he couldn't care less about pretending anymore. Hey, Tong Tong. You wait. He hurriedly chased after them. Xingqi carried the little white cat and followed behind him. He could not help but roll his eyes. He did not want to admit that this person was his brother. What should he do? The group of people walked out of the dark arena. Luo Qingtong was preparing to ask Su Yu about the recent situation in the western wilderness. Then she heard a burst of noise coming from the front. She looked up and suddenly saw a group of people walking over with great fanfare. The leader was a man wearing a white robe with bamboo embroidered on it. That outfit was elegant and graceful. But the other party's eyes were somewhat deep and cold. He didn't seem to be such a noble person. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and saw that the group of people were stunned when they saw them. Then the leader of the group, a young man in white, hurriedly walked towards them. Su Yu, are you all right? I've received news from my subordinates that the Cheng clan has asked Elder Pan of the Astonishing Heaven sect to act against the people of the heavenly diabolism. Thank you for your concern, young Master Bai. The matter has been resolved. Seeing this person, Su Yu frowned and immediately took a step back to avoid the other party's outstretched hand. The latter's hand was still in midair. Suddenly, anger and sternness flashed in his eyes. At the same time, there was also a deep sense of doubt. What's going on? Bai Jintang's eyes shone with a cold light. He was the one who brought Elder Pan and the Cheng clan together. At this moment, Su Yu and Tianxia's people should be trapped in the dark-colored arena, with no one to respond to them, their faces filled with despair. When most of the people of the heavenly diabolism were killed, he would make a move. With the identity of the Bai clan, he would save Su Yu. How could he not be grateful to him? At that time, what could he do to him? Didn't he have no choice but to obey him? How did they come out of the dark arena? Who was the one who ruined his plans? Bai Jintang was furious. Chapter 1204. The matter here was almost over, so he had to return to his family as soon as possible. However, he was extremely unwilling to let go of such a beauty for no reason. However, Bai Jintang's thoughts were very deep. Even though he was angry, he didn't show it on his face. Even when Su Yu avoided his hand, he didn't show any anger on his face. I forgot that, Su Yu, you don't like it when I get too close? But Su Yu, I really do care about you. You can choose not to accept my feelings, but the Cheng family has tried to deal with you again and again. This time they even invited a big shot like Elder Pan. Your heavenly diabolism alone won't be able to deal with them. Bai Jintang smiled at Su Yu. I'll say it again. As long as you agree to become my person, I can openly use the Bai family's power to protect them. At that time, I'll naturally ensure the safety of the heavenly diabolism people. As for the Cheng family and Elder Pan, I'll personally talk to them. Su Yu, think about it carefully. Your heavenly diabolism might be able to escape this time, but next time, you might not have such an opportunity. Don't you think so? As soon as he said this, Luo Qingtong, who was standing next to Su Yu, raised her hand and seduced Su Yu, who was as cold as jade, in front of her. She raised her head and kissed Su Yu on the cheek. Then she raised her eyes and looked at Bai Jintang. I'm sorry, young Master Bai, but Su Yu is already mine. You're too late. Luo Qingtong listened for a long time and finally understood. It was obvious that this young Master Bai was gay and had taken a liking to Su Yu. Was he going to force her? Luo Qingtong didn't think it was a coincidence that he came at this time. She had seen the look in the other party's eyes just now. This time, the Cheng family and Elder Pan came to cause trouble. Even if he wasn't the instigator, he definitely had something to do with it. She still wanted to use this to threaten Su Yu? Unfortunately, he didn't know that she dealt with all the members of the Cheng clan. The one who did it was Elder Pan. Luo Qingtong looked at Bai Jintang indifferently, the smile on her lips indescribably frivolous and evil. Bai Jintang's expression finally changed. He looked at them and then looked at Su Yu, who was obediently being hugged by Luo Qingtong. He was furious. Never would he have thought that his meticulously planned scheme would be taken advantage of by someone else. What made Bai Jintang even more excited was the fact that Suyu was lying in Luo Qingtong's arms without the slightest bit of struggle or unwillingness. That be **t. Previously, when facing him, he even pretended to be unable to accept it. But now, it was lying obediently in the man's arms like a dog. Bai Jintang's face was ferocious. However, he quickly adjusted himself. There were so many people here. He couldn't ruin his own image for the other party. Bai Jintang retracted his ferocious expression and then looked up at Luo Qingtong and the others with a sad smile. Is that so? Then congratulations to Suyu and everyone from xianxia. As he spoke, he took a step to the side with his fan and opened up a path. Please? Then I thank young Master Bai for his congratulations. Luo Qingtong didn't hesitate to stab him in the heart. Chapter 1205. Suyu buried her face in her master's bosom. She looked embarrassed, but in fact, her face was twitching helplessly. After not seeing her for so long, her master's domineering temperament had not changed at all. But to be able to solve this problem of Bai Jintang was also good. Suyu did not know what was going on with the other party. He inexplicably took a fancy to her and then began to pursue her. The problem was that she was a woman. How could a homosexual like her fall in love with a different gender? Master's move was perfect to prevent future troubles. Thinking like this, she let her master take liberties with her. At this time, Xuanhuan caught up from behind. Seeing this scene, he suddenly stomped his feet. Tong. Jujio, I also want. Luo Qingtong looked at him and rolled her eyes. I don't like women. She hugged Suyu and left. Luo Qingtong's words were completely correct. She originally did not like women. Xuanhuan gritted his teeth and glared behind her and then chased after her. Tianxia's people also quickly followed. After Luo Qingtong and the others all left, Bai Jintang suddenly raised his head with a cold face. Peng! He crushed the fan in his hand. Slut! His eyes were cold, looking at the direction Suyu and Luo Qingtong left. This pair of adulterous men. He originally thought that Suyu was a peerless and pure product, like a distant cold jade that could not be touched. He did not expect that he was a slut that could be casually hooked up with. If he knew that the other party was a kindred spirit, and was just pretending to refuse, why would he waste so much effort? He would have set up a trap to get him. Bai Jintang's eyes were cold. The people around him heard his words and immediately said to him to curry favor. Young master, this Suyu really does not know how to appreciate favors. Refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Young master, you treated him well, but he did not appreciate it. Now he turned around and hooked up with someone else. Young master, I think he was just toying with you like a fool. That inconspicuous young man just now, I'm afraid he's already her lover. Young master, I don't think you should think about being gentle and gentlemanly. We might as well tie him up and *ck him. When the time comes, we'll teach them a lesson. How dare they play tricks on you, young master? Bai Jintang's gaze turned even colder as he listened to the person beside him. The anger in his heart grew even more intense. He clenched his hand into a fist and said coldly, Go and find out what's going on in the dark-colored arena. How can Tianxia's people be fine? Also, what is the background of that young man? Report back to me after you found out everything. As he spoke, his expression was extremely ferocious. They better have some sort of power here, otherwise, I'll make them wish they were dead. The person he had his eyes on had actually been intercepted halfway? Even if she was a slut, it was still a slap to his face. No matter what, he would not let this matter rest. Bai Jintang's expression was cold. Their Bai family was one of the top families in the wild city of the far west wilderness. He had come to Fenghua City this time for an important matter, so he had brought many of his family's elites with him. No matter what the other party's background was, the far west wilderness was their territory. Chapter 1206. After Luo Qingtong and Suyu walked far away, she let go of the other person and said, What's the matter with this Bai Gongzi? She didn't know that Suyu's charm was so great that even men couldn't escape her men's charm. At this time, should she be glad that Xuanhuan, that scourge, was wearing women's clothes? Otherwise it would be more troublesome. I don't know. Suyu frowned, her face helpless. This Bai Jintang suddenly came to Fenghua City a while ago. He comes from one of the 4 great clans in Wild City, the Bai clan. It said that he came to Fenghua City for some important matter, so he brought many experts from the Bai clan with him. He came here and suddenly said that he fell in love with me at first sight. Saying this, Suyu's face showed a trace of disgust. It wasn't because Bai Jintang, as a man, expressed his love for her in men's clothes. but because he was the Bai clan's young master. Although he looked graceful and elegant, his reputation was very bad. When the other party came to find her, Suyu was afraid that her matter would bring trouble to xianxia, so she sent a letter to the Black Field to investigate Bai Jintang. The result was that they found many of the other party's dirty secrets. Bai Jintang not only liked men, but because of his identity as the Bai clan's young master, he had a deep taboo. None of the people he fancied had a good ending. If they didn't go missing, they would die very miserably. Suyu didn't have a good impression of the other party. Every time Bai Jintang tried to get close to her, she would bluntly reject him. She also said that she didn't have any interest in being a homosexual. Suyu's words weren't wrong. She was originally a woman in men's clothes, so it would be strange if she was interested in being a homosexual. But she didn't expect that the other party wouldn't give up. But after this time he should give up. After all, her master had already said that she was her person. This time the Cheng clan's matter shouldn't be unrelated to the other party. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. Be careful, don't go out alone for the next few days. Bai Jintang thought that he hid his emotions very well. However, Luo Qingtong had been hunted down and killed many times. She was very sensitive to the changes in people's hearts and emotions. She did not miss the viciousness in the other party's eyes and the ruthlessness in that instant. Luo Qingtong reminded Suyu that he was likely to make a move in the next few days. Yes, master. I understand. Suyu nodded. But he shouldn't have much time left. I heard that there's some movement on their side. It should be that there's some progress on the matter that they came to Fenghua City to do. In addition to what master said to him before, he should have given up. Suyu didn't think that he was some kind of calamity that could bring disaster to the country and its people. He didn't think that he could cause Bai Jintang to disregard everything. Not to mention she had been eyeing countless men all this while. She was probably just one of the names on his hunting list. Although he wanted to get her, it was insignificant compared to what he had to do. However, in order not to bring trouble to Luo Qingtong, Suyu decided to go out less for a while. However, Master, why did you suddenly come to the far west wilderness this time? The surprise in Suyu's heart hadn't completely disappeared. Luo Qingtong's appearance was really a surprise to her. Yes, there's a little matter. It's about the Saint King's tomb. Luo Qingtong revealed the purpose of her trip to the far west wilderness. Everyone here was on the same side. Chapter 1207. The group of people walked towards Heavenly Diabolism's base. On the other side, Bai Jintang had also received the news that his subordinates had gone to investigate. Eldest young master, it is said that the youth calls himself Yijio. We don't know his background, but that Elder Pan seems to be very respectful towards him. Those people from the Cheng family were all killed by him just to curry favor with this Yijio. In addition, the Cheng family's plan to humiliate Suyu was also shattered by this youth called Yijio. The Bai family's people handed over the information they had gathered. They couldn't help but sigh at the good luck of Suyu and the others. Originally, their eldest young master had set up a flawless trap. Suyu and Heavenly Diabolism's people were being made difficult. The Cheng family already had enmity with Suyu. They also had the Su family's hostage in their hands. Adding on Elder Pan's support, Suyu and the others would not be able to escape this calamity. At that time, their eldest young master would lead the Bai family's people to make a move. They would pretend to owe the Bai family a favor and persuade Elder Pan to stop. At that time they would kill the Cheng family's people and save the Su family's people to vent Suyu's anger. Why would they worry about not being able to win Suyu's heart? Even if the other party was a man, they would probably be bent because of this kindness and care. They would let their eldest young master do whatever he wanted. Moreover, this Suyu was said to be loyal and devoted to the master behind Heavenly Diabolism. Their eldest young master saved Heavenly Diabolism's people and saved Heavenly Diabolism from danger. He would definitely be moved to tears. Would they still be afraid that he wouldn't submit to their eldest young master? This subordinate had seen Bai Jintang use this method more than once. There had never been a time when it had failed. But this time Suyu had made a mistake. Not only was he intercepted halfway, he was also fiercely slapped in the face. The scene of Suyu obediently snuggling up to that youth called Yijio would probably make their eldest young master explode with anger. After all, when the other party was facing him, he didn't care about anything. But now he was so obedient towards this youth. How could their eldest young master not be angry? Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so desperate to find out more about the other party. One had to know that this matter had been ordered by the clan. They had been keeping watch for such a long time, and were about to reel in the net. Young master, Don't let this cause you to miss out on important matters. Yijio. Bai Jintang looked coldly at the news presented by his subordinate. The scene of Su Yu snuggling in Luo Qingtong's arms appeared in his mind. The anger in his heart burned fiercely. It wasn't because she was deeply in love with Su Yu that she couldn't hold back her anger. Instead, it was him who had tried to please the other party, only to be slapped in the face. The latter turned around and threw herself into the arms of an ordinary young man. The other party had neither looks nor family background. So what if the other party was capable of causing Elder Pan to feel fear? He was probably a genius disciple from one of the southern domain's great sects. That Elder Pan was afraid of him, but he wasn't. Thinking of this, Bai Jintang's eyes were filled with malice. But out of caution he still asked that subordinate, did that Elder Pan say what the other party's background was? If the other party was really not to be trifled with, then even if he was slapped in the face, Bai Jintang would give up on taking revenge on the other party. After all, he still had important family matters to attend to. He couldn't afford to get into too much trouble. Moreover, their Bai family in the far west wilderness wasn't able to cover the sky with one hand. Chapter 1208. Yu Xihuang was still dressed as a woman. Elder Pan would be crazy to say the other's identity. As for Luo Qingtong, he really didn't know her identity. Oh. Bai Jintang sneered. You didn't see anyone secretly protecting that Yi Jiao at the scene? Have you asked the Dark Colors Arena about this? Yes, I did, the subordinate replied. The Dark Colors Arena's people confirmed that there was no one protecting him. But, that subordinate said with some hesitation, the Dark Colors Arena's people said that Yi Jiao had already been hired as a guest elder by their deacon. Young master, I'm afraid we can't openly make a move against them in front of others. The Dark Colors Arena's guest elders had the ability to use the Dark Colors Arena's strength. If they made a move against them in front of others, the Dark Colors people would definitely not ignore it. Who said I'm going to make a move against them in front of others? Bai Jintang sneered. He wasn't that stupid to leave such a big handle for others to catch. Since that Yi Jiao's origin wasn't ordinary, he would naturally act in secret. At that time he would definitely make the other side cry for the heavens, cry for the earth, but there would be no response. Night. Luo Qingtong was in Su Yu's room. She had just finished asking the other about the situation in the far west wilderness when she suddenly felt a strange aura, suddenly filling the entire room. Her eyes flashed slightly, and in an instant she popped a pill into Su Yu's mouth, who hadn't discovered anything strange. Then she softly shushed her and then softly fell back to the ground. Seeing her action, Su Yu instantly understood. Suddenly, with the pill that Luo Qingtong gave her in her mouth, she also closed her eyes and softly fell to the ground. That pill melted in her mouth. There was no need for Su Yu to chew and swallow it. As soon as she closed her eyes, she felt two figures rush in from outside the door. Then each of them carried her and Luo Qingtong and rushed out the way they came. Luo Qingtong sensed carefully and found that no one else in heavenly diabolism was hurt. The other party seemed to be targeting her and Su Yu. She immediately understood. These people were also lucky, as Yu Xihuang had received a message from Elder Pan that he had something to do. Otherwise, before they could even make a move, their necks would have been broken by the other party and thrown in front of them. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She was not in a hurry. After the two of them left the heavenly diabolism's encampment, there were immediately people in charge of receiving them. Luo Qingtong and Su Yu were placed on the carriage and they quickly left Fenghua City. I didn't expect things to go so smoothly. The two men who kidnapped Luo Qingtong and Su Yu laughed. Young master really didn't miscalculate. Sure enough, there's no one protecting him. That's right. When the time comes, we'll just shift the blame to Elder Pan and this matter will be over. Who told that Elder Pan to be so stupid? When he saw that young master sent people to question the Dark Colors, he wanted to investigate the matter clearly and tell heavenly diabolism's people. Young master can beat him at his own game and kidnap him. When the time comes, we'll let Elder Pan take the blame. The two men laughed. Luo Qingtong then knew why Yu Xihuang was called out by Elder Pan. Her lips slightly twitched. That Elder Pan was also unlucky. He was inexplicably used by Bai Jintang. Chapter 1209. Otherwise they wouldn't have succeeded today. But this also saved her a lot of trouble. Originally, Luo Qingtong thought that if young Master Bai didn't come to provoke them again, this time's matter would be over. She also didn't have time to dawdle with the other party. But if the other party insisted on finding trouble, then don't blame her for cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots. Bai Jintang wanted to shift the blame to Elder Pan for tonight's matter. That means no one else knew that they were kidnapped? This is very good. Luo Qingtong's lips slightly curled up. After Su Yu ate Luo Qingtong's elixir, she had been awake the whole time. When she heard the words of these two people, she immediately blamed herself. This was another trouble she had caused, and she had even implicated her master to suffer along with her. She wanted to move, but although the elixir given by Luo Qingtong could keep her awake, in order to not let the other party discover any clues, she really couldn't move her body. Luo Qingtong saw her look towards her side and immediately put her index finger to her lips, silently shushing her, telling her not to be anxious and to continue pretending to be unconscious. At this time the carriage stopped. The two people in front jumped off the carriage, came to the back of the carriage, opened the curtain, and carried Luo Qingtong and Su Yu again and walked to the front of the manor. It's done? There were specialized people waiting outside to provide support. Looking at the two people carrying Su Yu and Luo Qingtong, that person sneered and then said, "Send them to young master's room. When young master and the other officials have finished their discussion, then slowly deal with them." Yes. The two people responded and immediately carried Luo Qingtong and Su Yu inside. The two people were thrown into a room. After they left, Luo Qingtong opened her eyes and looked around. Luo Qingtong's eyes slightly narrowed, looking at the exquisite decorations and furnishings. Sure enough, it was the residence of young Master Bai. The decorations here were very luxurious. It was just a temporary residence, but the decorations were so luxurious. This Bai Jintang really knew how to enjoy life. Luo Qingtong thought and raised her hand to release Su Yu's body. Master. As soon as the latter's body was released, she immediately opened her mouth impatiently. Let's leave here quickly? Su Yu's heart was anxious. Bai Jintang's strength wasn't weak, and with so many experts of the Bai family here, she was worried about Luo Qingtong's safety. I'm fine. Luo Qingtong nodded at her. She walked to a nearby cabinet and suddenly narrowed her eyes. Then, she raised her hand and suddenly flicked 3 times on a vase placed in the cabinet. 3 flicks of Qingtong, 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 Qingtong. Then, Qingtong, 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 Qingtong. Qingtong, Qingtong of Qingtong's Qingtong, Qingtong, Qingtong. Qingtong. It revealed a secret passage that was large enough for one person to pass through. A strange smell wafted out from it. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. When she smelled this scent, a sharp glint suddenly appeared in her bloody light. This smell was all too familiar to her. Murderous aura, faintly emitted from Luo Qingtong's body. Her expression was cold as she rushed in through the secret door. Su Yu followed behind her. The two of them entered the secret door and the door closed behind them. After moving forward for a short distance. Chapter 12:10. Bastard. Su Yu looked at the scene in front of her and could not contain the anger in her heart. She saw that at the end of the secret passage was a huge room. There were all kinds of special torture instruments placed inside. There was a man sitting or lying on top of each torture instrument. These people were of different ages, but the only thing they had in common was that they were all very handsome. These people each had their own temperament, but at this moment, these handsome men with different temperaments were all covered with signs of abuse. They were either hanging or kneeling and looked like they were on the verge of death. There were a few people who had completely lost their lives. Quick, leave! One of them heard the movement and raised his head to look at Luo Qingtong and Su Yu. He tried his best to weakly shake the shackles on his hands and called out to them weakly. Master. Su Yu's eyes were red. She looked at these people and she had seen some of them in Fenghua City. So these people were all men that Bai Jintang had kidnapped and played with after coming to Fenghua City? Not only did he like men, but he also had a special hobby. He even had such a hobby of abuse? Looking at the men who had their eyes gouged out, their hands chopped off, their legs chopped off, and their bodies bound with all kinds of torture instruments, the anger in Su Yu's heart burned fiercely. She thought of herself and her master. If her master was not powerful enough and had made preparations beforehand, would they also have ended up like this after being kidnapped? This Bai Jintang was simply wretched. At the same time, Su Yu was very glad that when Bai Jintang had taken a fancy to her, he did not seem to be prepared to kidnap her. Otherwise, she and the people of xianxia would not be able to escape the fate of destruction. They would not have been able to wait for her master to arrive. This kind of person was simply too disgusting and too terrifying. Just as Su Yu was raging in her heart, Luo Qingtong's eyes were also very cold. When she had just opened the tunnel, the smell that she smelled was the smell of death and decay. It was a mixture of blood and tears, and it was simply too disgusting. When Luo Qingtong wasn't strong enough in her previous life, She was also locked up in such a place and forced to watch countless tortures and deaths. Those people wanted her ability. They wouldn't do anything to her, but they wanted to use such a method to disgust her and make her submit. Luo Qingtong was deeply disgusted by such things. Once she had the strength, she would immediately destroy that organization. She also let those who participated in the matter of forcing her have a taste of those torturous beggars. Now, this underground passage evoked a very unpleasant memory of this matter in the depths of her heart. At this moment, Luo Qingtong very wanted to kill someone. Bang bang bang. Luo Qingtong's aura burst out, shattering all the torture instruments. Give these to them. If they can live, they can live. If they can't, they can only die. Luo Qingtong handed several bottles of liquid medicine to Suyu. She was not an immortal. Many people here had already been destroyed to the point of certain death. Their internal organs and bones were all destroyed. It was already not bad for them to be able to drag their last breath and live until now. Not to mention those who had their eyes gouged out and their hands and feet chopped off. The most important thing was that many people here had the will to die because of this kind of abuse. Since they didn't want to live, how could Luo Qingtong save them? She also didn't want to waste her effort. Chapter 12:11. Thank you, mistress. Suyu knew that Luo Qingtong took out the elixir because of her pleading earlier. There were indeed a few people she knew here and they were all the same. She thought that if she wasn't mistress, she might have ended up in the same situation. She might have ended up in an even more miserable state because she was a woman. Suyu's heart couldn't bear it. She rushed into the room with the elixir bottle and fed the elixir into the mouths of those people one by one. At the same time, Luo Qingtong heard the faint sound of footsteps coming from outside. She narrowed her eyes and moved quickly to the back of the secret door. Bai Jintang stepped into the room with his trusted aide behind him. What's going on? Where are they? Bai Jintang frowned when he saw that there was no one around. He turned to look at his trusted aide behind him. The latter did not seem to have expected this. He looked around, then asked the guard outside and said, "Young master, he's been sent in. It should be those two servants who didn't hear clearly and sent them down. Do you want me to bring them up again?" he asked. "There's no need." Hearing that they were sent down, a cold smile appeared on Bai Jintang's face. So what if they were sent down? That place was supposed to be their final resting place. Who told that Suyu to not know how to appreciate kindness? Bai Jintang sneered. He originally wanted to pamper that Suyu for a while and wait until he was tired of playing with her before seeing if he could test out his new torture device on her. But he didn't think that the other party would be so shameless. Since she wasn't willing to follow him, then he'll just let those people who were unwilling to submit and were captured by him enjoy the feast he had prepared for them. In fact, if it wasn't for Suyu's appearance and temperament being of the highest quality, he would have already made his move based on the other party's repeated rejection. What had happened during the day had worn away his last bit of patience. Refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Knowing that they were in the secret room, Bai Jintang didn't care anymore. He looked at the group of Bai family experts behind him and said, "Let's do as we've just discussed. Immediately bring people to that place overnight and lie in ambush. Wait for that thing to appear. I'll rush over tomorrow." But the group of Bai family experts were very worried and said, "If we're not by your side, what if?" "There's no what if." Bai Jintang waved his hand. "It's only one night, what big thing can happen?" This young master Bai Jintang is only a step away from the martial spirit realm. Moreover, I still have the Saint Stage protective talisman that my ancestor drew with his own essence blood at great cost. In a small place like Fenghua City, how could anyone possibly injure me? Bai Jintang's gaze was arrogant. "You don't say no. That's more important thus. Besides, the family is still waiting for us to return and deal with the Hu clan together. That old bastard, is that old's? He's guarding that bitch's daughter's thing and won't even let it go. But it doesn't matter. He won't be able to hold on much longer." Bai Jintang sneered. "When he's dead, that thing will still fall into our hands." Chapter 12:12. As he said that, Luo Qingtong, who was behind the secret door, narrowed her eyes. Saint Monarch's tomb? How did he know about the Saint Monarch's tomb? And he said it so openly? Furthermore, judging from the breathing of the others, they were also aware of this matter, and there wasn't any shock or emotion that appeared. Then this matter was interesting. Luo Qingtong knew about this because she had the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in her hands and had cracked the secret. Xuanhuan and the people from Celestial Palace were the same. Was it the same for the Bai family? But if that was the case, shouldn't Bai Jintang be hiding it? After all, the Saint Monarch's tomb was such a big matter. Since the Bai family wanted to rely on this matter to rise, they should keep it a secret. But at this moment, Luo Qingtong didn't hear the slightest hint of avoidance from his words. In this case, if the people present were not the confidants of the Bai family, then, the matter of the Saint Monarch's tomb had been spread by people for some reason. Luo Qingtong leaned towards the second possibility. After all, there were times when the confidants of the Bai family were unreliable. The Saint Monarch's tomb was such a big matter. Even if the Bai family wanted to tell, they could just choose one or two trusted confidants to tell. There was no need to tell every confidant. The only possibility was that the secret of the Saint Monarch's tomb was no longer a secret, so they didn't avoid it. Then the question was, how did this news leak out? The people who owned the Saint Monarch's tomb couldn't wait to hide this news, but someone actually made it public? And why did Bai Jintang specifically mention the family who? Was the other party involved with the Saint Monarch's tomb? Luo Qingtong's mind turned one thought after another. She was grateful to Bai Jintang for bringing her here. Otherwise, she wouldn't have known about these things and missed out on a lot of information. Luo Qingtong was thinking when she suddenly heard Bai Jintang say, "Okay, all of you go and get ready." The group of people left. Luo Qingtong heard the sound of Bai Jintang going into the inner hall to change his clothes. She suddenly narrowed her eyes, turned around and went back. The other party needed some time to change his clothes, which was enough for her to make arrangements. "Master." In the dark room, seeing Luo Qingtong appear, Suyu quickly greeted her. Behind her was a group of 7 or 8 people. When they saw Luo Qingtong, they immediately knelt on the ground. "Master, thank you for saving my life." They knelt on the ground and kowtowed heavily to Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong looked at Suyu. The latter coughed softly and explained to her, "They are all loose cultivators who were captured by Bai Jintang not long ago." The latter didn't have time to torture them. At this point, Suyu's heart was filled with rage. "Mistress, you don't know how disgusting Bai Jintang is, how excessive, those people. Suyu didn't know how to continue. When she went to rescue them earlier, she realized that the abuse they had suffered was simply outrageous. Many people's lower bodies were rotten. It was a ghastly sight. After being fed medicine by Suyu, they recovered some strength and immediately committed suicide. Bai Jintang, on the other hand, didn't torture the people behind her, because they had only been captured a few days ago. Bai Jintang was still thinking about how to make use of the Chen clan to set up a trap. He only locked them up and tortured them. Chapter 12-13. As soon as they were released from their restraints, they immediately asked Suyu to recognize Luo Qingtong as their master. They probably knew that although they were saved, it was impossible for them to leave this place alone. If they wanted to live, they could only rely on Luo Qingtong. Suyu didn't dare to agree without permission. She could only let them wait for Luo Qingtong to come back and beg on their own. Emma. After hearing Suyu's words, Luo Qingtong nodded slightly. She had turned back to see if any of these people had survived. If there were, she could use them. Since these people were willing to recognize her as their master, it would save her a lot of trouble. Luo Qingtong didn't like to help others for no reason. She had never been a person with excessive sympathy. Her sympathy had long been worn out by the betrayal and use of these people when she was hunted down in her previous life. To Luo Qingtong, there were only 2 kinds of people in this world who were worthy of her help. One was those who had helped her. The other was her own people. The first kind was a favor that she had to repay. The latter was a responsibility that she had to bear. The others could only pray for their own good fortune. In this world, no one had ever had to help anyone. Luo Qingtong only knew that those who had helped her had flourished for 3 generations. Those who hated her had to go through purgatory. The others had nothing to do with her. Call her cold-blooded or selfish, but she was such a person. She did things her own way, unbridled and unrestrained. She had never been afraid of anyone's words. "All right, since you have recognized me as your master, I will definitely bring you out safely. But now you have to listen to me first." Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She already had a plan in her heart and needed these people to cooperate. Of course, it was fine if they didn't want to cooperate. Luo Qingtong had other ways. But in that case, for her plan to go smoothly, she could only kill them. So these people's recognition of her as their master was actually saving themselves. "Yes, Master, please give your orders." These lucky survivors of the darkroom purgatory were willing to do anything in order to leave this place. Not to mention that they had already recognized Luo Qingtong as their master. Naturally, they would wholeheartedly obey her orders. For them, only Luo Qingtong could possibly get them out of here. For this, they were willing to pay any price. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded, then said to them, "You guys will do this later." She told them about her plan in detail and gave them something. "Remember, do as I say. No matter what happens, there can't be any mistakes. Otherwise, if this fails, I will be able to leave, but you will definitely be left here to accompany them." Luo Qingtong said, glancing at the people who committed suicide because of the abuse. "Yes, we know. Please rest assured, Master." As they looked at the corpses, the scenes of hell that they had seen in the past few days reappeared in their minds, causing them to firmly remember Luo Qingtong's words. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded. At this moment, the sound of the secret door being opened was heard. Luo Qingtong gestured to these people, then lay down on the ground with Suyu. Those people gritted their teeth and returned to where they were originally, on the torture instruments that humiliated them. Chapter 12-14. Bai Jintang appeared in the dark room with a satisfied expression. His gaze swept across the scene in front of him. Suddenly, his gaze fixed on Luo Qingtong and Suyu. "Humph." He sneered as he looked at their tightly shut eyes. He raised his hand and splashed a ladle of water on their faces. "Master!" Suyu cried out in alarm in her heart. Afraid of disrupting Luo Qingtong's plan, she could only clench her teeth and swallow her words. But in her heart, she had already cut Bai Jintang into 1,000 pieces. This bastard, how dare he treat Master like this? To Suyu, this was more infuriating than all kinds of punishment on her. The blood in Luo Qingtong's eyes was also rapidly spinning. She pretended to wake up slowly and raised her hand to wipe the water off her face. But in her heart, she sneered, "This Bai family's eldest young master is really courting death. What to do?" She felt that the ending she had previously imagined for him was somewhat unworthy of his degree of courting death. Suyu and Luo Qingtong pretended to wake up slowly, and the people they saved also pretended to be startled by the sound of water. One person shook the shackles in his hands and cried out in panic at Bai Jintang, "Eldest young master, please spare me, I'm willing to do anything. Please don't torture me like this anymore." As he spoke, he lay on the ground and cried. The others also pretended to be frightened, constantly begging Bai Jintang to spare their lives. Because they had been captured not long ago, Bai Jintang had not touched them even once. He had only ordered people to lock them up here, and then let them watch the miserable state of those who had been abused. He did not suspect their cries and pleas. When Luo Qingtong woke up and saw the miserable state, she seemed to be frightened. Then she grabbed Suyu and shrank back, shouting sternly, "You! Bai Jintang, why did you capture us here? I'm telling you, I'm not to be trifled with. If you know what's good for you, quickly let me go. Otherwise, you'll have a good time in the future." Luo Qingtong praised her acting skills as she spoke. It had been a long time since she had played a role that was so tough on the outside but weak on the inside. She was really afraid that she wouldn't be able to act like a coward and would be exposed. However, it turned out that she had not forgotten the skills that she had practiced in the past that allowed her to change her face at any time. It was also awesome. Suyu echoed her, "That's right, Bai Jintang. Do you know who she is? You'll be scared to death if I tell you. Hurry up and release us." Suyu's acting was a little bad. However, due to the anger in her heart and the fact that most of her words were her true self, Bai Jintang didn't notice anything amiss. Bai Jintang looked at the two of them and sneered, "I don't need to know who she is. I only need to know that from now on, there is only one possibility for her, and that is that she is a dead person. That is enough." "But you bitch." Bai Jintang clenched his teeth and looked at Suyu. "No wonder you fell into his arms so quickly. So it's because you've taken a fancy to the power behind him? But unfortunately, from today onwards, neither of you will be able to walk out of here." The feeling of holding their lives in his hands made Bai Jintang feel very comfortable. In order to better humiliate Luo Qingtong and Suyu, he raised his hand and released the group of people who were begging him for mercy. "Come and serve me." Chapter 12-15. Everyone pretended to be afraid to disobey and humiliated as they walked over. At that moment, Bai Jintang suddenly kicked one of them. "Crawl over here." That person clearly didn't suffer much damage, but he acted as if he was out of strength and fell to the side. "Young master." Hearing this sound, the people guarding outside quickly rushed in from outside. The Bai family's experts weren't present, so the other people in charge of guarding the secret passage were very worried about Bai Jintang's safety. Scram. Bai Jintang's mood was disturbed, and he looked at them with dissatisfaction. Then he raised his hand and sent a gust of wind towards them. He thought about how he was going to enjoy himself here. Not only was he going to destroy Su Yu, but he was also going to make Yi Jiu understand what despair was. He immediately said coldly, "All of you get out. Without my orders, no one is allowed to come in if they hear anything." He didn't have the habit of letting people watch him enjoy himself. Yes. The people guarding outside didn't dare to refute. Bai Jintang looked gentle and refined, but he was actually very violent. Most of the people around him knew this. Their gazes swept across the secret room and saw Luo Qingtong curled up into a ball. She wasn't even as responsible as Su Yu, and their faces filled with disdain. They then looked at the people who were cowering around Bai Jintang. Most of them had already been tortured here, so they couldn't do anything to Bai Jintang. The group of people saw this and immediately retreated with relief. Seeing their backs leave, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes slightly. These people's auras were only average. She had sensed the auras of those experts at the secret passage before, so they should have already left. But just in case, it was better to wait a little longer. So Luo Qingtong kept her head buried behind Su Yu and didn't move. Bai Jintang wanted to make trouble for her, but the people around him saw through his intentions. They immediately suppressed the anger and killing intent in their hearts, and kept flattering him and begging for mercy. Bai Jintang's purpose in capturing these people was to enjoy himself. It was just that these people were unwilling to submit, so he used them to torture them. Now that he saw them taking the initiative, his interest was piqued. For the time being, he was too lazy to care about Luo Qingtong. Anyway, the night was long. Sooner or later, he would let the other party know the consequences of offending him. One night was enough for him to torture the other party to death. As Bai Jintang thought of this, he felt an indescribable sense of pride in his heart. He didn't immediately make a move against Luo Qingtong. The group of people circled around him, and their killing intent towards him grew stronger and stronger. At this time, Luo Qingtong estimated that it was about time for the Bai clan's experts to leave this place. Suddenly, he slowly stepped out from behind Su Yu. Seeing Luo Qingtong's actions, Su Yu's angry and helpless expression suddenly disappeared. "Master," she said respectfully. Luo Qingtong casually raised her hand and pushed the messy hair hanging in front of her forehead to the side. Then she looked at Bai Jintang, who seemed to have sensed something was wrong. His expression suddenly froze, and the corners of her lips hooked up in a wild and unrestrained smile. "Do it." Her aura changed in an instant. Chapter 12:16. In an instant, Luo Qingtong's face and temperament became incomparably evil and enchanting. The murderous aura and coldness emanating from her body made her look like an exquisite and enchanting demonic flower in full bloom. Every glance and smile was filled with an aura that could captivate souls. Absolutely domineering, extremely alluring. Following Luo Qingtong's blossoming smile, even Bai Jintang, who had already sensed that something was wrong, was stunned for a moment. His eyes flashed with an absolutely stunning light. Around him, the faces of the people who had been forcing themselves to smile around him all changed in an instant. Boom! Following Luo Qingtong's voice, the group of people immediately stood according to the positions that Luo Qingtong had told them before. The group of people were very smart. They had already found their positions when they were trying to curry favor with Bai Jintang. At this moment, when Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, they immediately stood still. In an instant, Bai Jintang, who had come back to his senses, found that the space around him seemed to have been isolated. What's going on? Bai Jintang, who hadn't paid any attention to the group of people in front of him from the beginning, suddenly had a bad premonition in his heart. He looked carefully and found that the positions of these people were actually a bit tied. Humph! You think you can stop me like this? What a joke. Seeing that the other party wanted to use this method to trap him, Bai Jintang's expression was cold. He looked at Luo Qingtong's face, which was no longer covered up, and her evil and enchanting temperament with amazement. He raised his head and laughed. "I didn't expect you to be even better than Su Yu." He looked up and down at the youth's figure, his eyes full of lust and coldness. "Since you delivered yourself to my door, then I'll play with you properly before sending you to your death." Bai Jintang was already certain that Luo Qingtong was definitely not an ordinary person. This kind of grace and temperament, even the genius disciples of ordinary superforces might not be able to cultivate. She must be a genius among geniuses, the core of the core. Otherwise, she would be a candidate carefully protected by the super experts of those super forces. Since he had offended such a person, he definitely couldn't let her go. Otherwise there would be no end of trouble. Thinking this, Bai Jintang's lips curled into a cold smile. His figure flashed, and he appeared in front of one of the people surrounding him. Ah, you want to trap me with just these people who can't even stand properly? Bai Jintang laughed and raised his hand to slap towards that person. That person gritted his teeth and thought of what Luo Qingtong had told them before. No matter what happened, they had to do as she said. There could not be any mistakes. Otherwise, they would have to bear the consequences of failure themselves. And what Luo Qingtong told them was to stand at their positions and not move. If Bai Jintong's attack, Luo Qingtong Tong, Qingtong Luo Qingtong, Luo Qingtong, Luo Qingtong's a Qingtong, a Luanluan's or not? That person, seeing that Bai Jintong's palm was getting closer and closer, he suddenly gritted his teeth and closed his eyes. He didn't dodge. He would die if he tried to hide anyway. If he didn't dodge and followed Luo Qingtong's instructions, he might still have a chance to survive. They had already acknowledged the other party as their master. If the other party wanted to deal with Bai Jintang, they would not abandon them. Chapter 12:17. With that thought in mind, the man stood there motionless. Bang! Bai Jintang's palm seemed to carry the force of 1,000 caddies. Originally, he thought that he would be able to blast a huge hole in that person's body and send him flying away. However, when that palm landed on that person's body, it shockingly passed through his body. It was as if it had hit empty air, and it emitted a muffled bang sound. This, Bai Jintang and the man were both stunned. The latter opened his eyes and saw that he was unharmed, then looked at Bai Jintang's shocked expression and laughed. Aha, Bai Jintang, you finally met your end. The man finally reacted. The formation they had formed not only trapped Bai Jintang inside, but also prevented him from leaving. At the same time, it also allowed them to hide. In other words, they had formed a space of their own. Unless Bai Jintang could break the formation they had formed, there was no way he could hurt them. Thinking of this, he suddenly laughed out loud, even louder than Bai Jintang's earlier laughter. Trash. Just wait for your death here. The man looked at Bai Jintang with a cold gaze. The latter's expression finally changed. His gaze swept across the people surrounding him. After a few consecutive palm strikes hit empty air, his expression immediately darkened. It's you? His gaze shifted to Luo Qingtong beside him. The latter had been watching him put on a monkey show all along. When she saw that he had finally shifted his gaze to her, she immediately walked forward with a smile. That's right, it's me. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. When she had formed the formation, she had pushed Suyu out. Now, there were only two people in the formation, her and Bai Jintang. You're quite capable. Bai Jintang's expression was a little ugly. The other party could temporarily form a formation to trap him, using people he had tortured to the point that they had almost no strength left. Their formation skills were not to be underestimated. Could it be that she was the disciple of some hidden formation master? If that was the case, then he had really caused a big mess this time. He could not let the other party escape from his hands. Fortunately, the other party was only a peak martial emperor. Bai Jintang sneered as he looked at Luo Qingtong's aura. His heart was filled with disdain and ridicule. You think you can kill me after trapping me with such little strength? You even trapped me in here with you. You're really stupid. Could it be that the other party thought that by trapping him in this array formation, he would not be able to use his strength? Bai Jintang sneered. He immediately waved his sleeve and charged towards Luo Qingtong. I'll catch you first. Let's see what you can do after we break this formation. With a cold smile, he appeared beside Luo Qingtong with a boom. Bang. Luo Qingtong looked at his attacking figure. The bloody light in her eyes suddenly flashed and she swept to the side. In an instant, the attack hit nothing but air. Boom, boom, boom. Bai Jintang's attacks came one after another. He attacked Luo Qingtong violently. Luo Qingtong did not fight him head-on. The bloody light in the girl's eyes flickered. Every time she dodged the attack at the right time. Inside the formation, waves of air rose one after another. Its power was monstrous. Bang! The range of the formation was limited. After a few attacks, Bai Jintang had suddenly forced Luo Qingtong into a corner. Looking at the seemingly defenseless youth, Bai Jintang laughed complacently. Ah, you can't run away this time, right? Come and accompany me obediently. Chapter 12:18. Master. Suyu, who was outside, immediately became anxious when she saw this scene. However, she had been by Luo Qingtong's side for quite some time. She knew that if Luo Qingtong didn't give any orders, she would definitely be confident. She immediately suppressed her anxious mood and didn't rashly go forward to destroy the human formation formed by those people. The movements in this underground secret room couldn't be hidden from the people outside. At this time, no one had come in to investigate. Firstly, it was because of Bai Jintong's previous orders. Secondly, it was because this human formation had covered most of the sounds and movements. Otherwise, with Bai Jintong's strength, his attacks would be enough to shake this underground secret room. The people outside would definitely be aware of it. Su Yu's heart was anxious, and needless to say, the hearts of those who formed the human formation were even more anxious. They hadn't been by Luo Qingtong's side before, so they didn't know the latter's ability. At this moment, seeing that she was forced into a corner, they suddenly became anxious. They almost couldn't restrain their desire to take action. After all, if Luo Qingtong was really caught by Bai Jintang, then they wouldn't be able to escape. The human formation that they had formed could not trap Bai Jintang without limit. It was all supported by the spiritual weapons Luo Qingtong gave them. Otherwise, with their recently recovered bodies, it would be impossible for them to withstand Bai Jintang's forceful breaking of the formation. Once Luo Qingtong was caught, there would be no one to restrict Bai Jintang's movements. The formation they formed would definitely be broken. The group of people was anxious, but thinking of the words Luo Qingtong said to them before, they didn't dare to act rashly. After all, if they made a mistake and couldn't trap Bai Jintang, then it would really be a mistake with good intentions. Just as everyone's hearts were tormented, Luo Qingtong looked at Bai Jintang's attack and laughed. Idiot! Her figure easily dodged this attack. Obviously, she had been forced into a dead end and there was no way out. But for Luo Qingtong it was completely useless. She easily passed through the formation and hid herself in another space, just like the people who formed the formation. Then she came out from behind Bai Jintang. In the blink of an eye, Bai Jintang was the one forced into a dead end. Sword. Luo Qingtong raised her hand. In an instant, a black and white long sword surrounded by light appeared in her hand. The girl held her sword horizontally in front of her chest. It was the standard heaven-conquering arts starting stance. Luo Qingtong smiled wickedly at Bai Jintang, who had suddenly turned around, and then suddenly waved her hand. Heaven-conquering art. Seizing heaven's fortune. As Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, a sword light that seemed to split the heavens and earth appeared before Bai Jintang's eyes. Then, with an aura that made people tremble, it flew towards Bai Jintang. Luo Qingtong's right hand held the 1,000-year soul guiding wood. The power that had been absorbed from the elder of the celestial palace was suddenly drawn into the sword light. This caused Luo Qingtong's sword to have an extremely terrifying power. Bai Jintang looked at the sword light flying towards him, and the disdain and ridicule in his eyes instantly changed. He felt that Luo Qingtong's sword light definitely had the power to kill him. How was this possible? The other party was merely a martial emperor. Chapter 12:19. Bai Jintang couldn't believe what he was seeing. However, the power contained in the sword light was real. Bai Jintang had a feeling that if he didn't dodge this sword light in time, he would definitely die here. And he was now forced into a dead end of the array. The array enveloped the space on his left and right. Unless he immediately broke the array, he would have to face this sword light head-on. Damn it! He cursed under his breath. He originally thought that Luo Qingtong was a person who was too clever for her own good. But he didn't expect that the person who thought herself clever was him. This Yijio definitely did it on purpose, luring him into this dead end. And the powerful battle strength that the other party had displayed made Bai Jintang's heart feel an indescribable chill. This time he had really kicked an iron plate. He had provoked someone who he shouldn't have. No. He definitely couldn't let the other party leave here alive. Thinking of this, Bai Jintang's eyes revealed a murderous glint. At this time he didn't care about hiding anything or what he couldn't bear to do. He immediately raised his hand and fiercely tapped his chest. Ancestor's talisman, appear immediately. Bai Jintang immediately used the Ancestor's talisman he had on him. This Sage Realm talisman was directly connected to his heart meridian. Activated by the Bai family's unique secret method, it would immediately release an attack comparable to the power of the Sage Realm. This was drawn by the Sage Realm experts of the Bai family to protect the important members of the family. It was extremely costly and couldn't be used carelessly. As the eldest grandson of the third generation, Bai Jintang naturally had one. But after using it he could forget about getting a second one for 10 years. If he encountered any danger in the future he could only rely on himself. Thinking of this, his heart dripped blood, and the gaze he looked at Luo Qingtong with became even more ferocious and evil. "This Yizhou, damn it!" Buzz. Bai Jintang tapped his finger. In an instant, a blood-red mark appeared in his body where his heart was. However, before Bai Jintang could rejoice, the blood-red mark that he had driven out floated in midair and spun once before falling silent again. How is this possible? Looking at the blood-red mark that had fallen silent again, Bai Jintang was stunned. Before he could activate the mark again, Luo Qingtong's attack arrived with a boom. The sword light viciously slashed his body. In an instant, a blood-curdling scream rang out as Bai Jintang's legs were severed. He was sent flying before crashing heavily into the ground. How is this possible? How is it that my Sage Realm talisman? It's you? It's you? Bai Jintang's expression's face, he laid on the ground without any resistance. The muscles on his face twitched as he glared fiercely at Luo Qingtong. She had already looking at him, looking at her. That's right. You're not that stupid. It's me. Looking at him, Luo Xia's eyes looked at the secret door. She had already heard Bai Jintang mention the Sage Realm talisman in his body. How could she give him a chance to use it again? Her repeated dodging just now was not only to lure Bai Jintang into the array's blind spot, but also to secretly destroy the blood-red mark in his body. Others might not be able to do anything to that thing. But for Luo Qingtong, all she had to do was find the line connecting the blood-red mark to Bai Jintang's heart meridian and obstruct it. Chapter 12:20. You. Bai Jintang was just venting his anger. He didn't expect Luo Qingtong to be the culprit. He looked at the youth in front of him with shock and fear. He didn't know how the other party had done it. That was a protective amulet drawn by a Saint Realm cultivator using his own blood essence. How could one destroy it without the same level of power? Not to mention, how did the other party know that he had a Saint Realm protective amulet? Bai Jintang didn't know that Luo Qingtong didn't need to destroy the blood amulet. She only needed to make it unable to absorb the power of his heart meridians. As for the existence of the protective amulet, it was completely revealed by him. However, Luo Qingtong couldn't be bothered to explain this to him. She asked the people who had formed the array to disperse and deactivate it. Then she raised her hand and fed a pill into Bai Jintang's mouth. "Yo, what did you feed me?" Bai Jintang was horrified. He repeatedly vomited, but nothing came out. The pill melted in his mouth. How could he spit it out? Of course it's something good. Luo Qingtong sat on the chair that Suyu had brought for her. She looked at Bai Jintang with an indifferent expression. "Alright, tell me. What's your purpose in coming to Fenghua City? How did you know about the Saint King's tomb? Also, what's going on with family Hu?" Bai Jintang's expression changed in horror. He was just about to say that Luo Qingtong could forget about getting any information from him, but he found that his mouth opened uncontrollably and he told her everything. Bai Jintang's eyes bulged. He desperately tried to stop himself from speaking. However, he couldn't do it even if he used all his strength. It was as if this body was no longer his. There was another him reading his thoughts and controlling his speech. Bai Jintang's gaze finally became thorough. He thought of the pill that Luo Qingtong had just fed him. "Who are you?" After he had revealed all his secrets, he finally regained control of his thoughts. His voice was hoarse and difficult as he spoke. "Someone. You can't afford to offend." Luo Qingtong looked at him and suddenly smiled evilly. She stood up and kicked Bai Jintang to the people who were looking at him with hatred. "I'll leave him to you now. You can do whatever you want with him. There are so many torture tools here, it should be enough for you to enjoy to your heart's content." Luo Qingtong looked at them and said. She never liked to mistreat her own people. Since these people had helped her and recognized her as their master, she would naturally avenge them. She had purposely left Bai Jintang alive so that she could dig out as much information as she could from him. Secondly, it was to avenge these people. They had been tortured by Bai Jintang, so they were most likely very willing to teach Bai Jintang a lesson and let him know what was called hell on earth. Yes. The group of people was very agitated. After kowtowing to Luo Qingtong, they immediately surrounded Bai Jintang with ferocious voices. The latter's cries were mournful and shrill as he continued to cry out in alarm. But the people waiting outside had received his orders and simply turned a deaf ear to these cries. They only sighed in their hearts that their young master was really getting more and more playful. They didn't know what kind of torture those people below had suffered to make them cry out so miserably. Just as they were thinking this, a faintly discernible smell swept over them. Plop plop. The group of people waiting outside fell to the ground one after another. Luo Qingtong's figure appeared in the room. She was about to wave her sleeves and spread the smell around the manor. Chapter 12:21. Boom. At the entrance of the holiday villa, an explosive sound suddenly rang out. Who is it? Everyone in the Bai family manor is alarmed. Luo Qingtong senses the aura, then her mouth twitches. Hand over the people you caught. In the dark night, Xuanhuan is wearing a purple robe, mysterious and charming. His sleeves are fluttering, the tear mole at the corner of his eye, under the moonlight, looks indescribably dark red like blood. It makes the man's face look even more evil. In the darkness of the night, it was as if a soul-sucking demon was haunting it. I'll count to 3 if you don't hand over the people, I'll flatten this place. Xuanhuan raises his hand to touch the tear mole at the corner of his eye, looking at the people coming out of the villa, his eyes flashing with a cold and violent murderous aura. He received Elder Pan's message and went out, but when he came back he found no trace of Luo Qingtong and Suyu. In his rage he almost wrings Elder Pan's head off. It's this idiot just passing on a message and he called him out to take credit. Otherwise how could Luo Qingtong and Suyu disappear? Fortunately Yu Xingqi's fat cat can track, so he found this place in the middle of the night. These Bai family people are really tired of living. Xuanhuang's eyes are full of killing intent. The people from the Bai family holiday villa were shocked to the core. They look at the man under the moonlight like a demon, they don't know how they provoked such a strong person. Only Bai Jintang's confidants have a change of expression. Not good. It's the 2 people young master caught before. They didn't expect that just to help Bai Jintang vent his anger, would attract such a strong person. Seeing Xuanhuang's body overflowing with a terrifying aura, their complexion changed. At this time, a lazy voice faintly rings. Why are you talking so much with them? Just directly kill them all. Luo Qingtong's figure appears in the night. Sensing Xuanhuang's aura, she directly shows herself. The other party came, it saved her a lot of trouble. Otherwise, those people with higher strength wouldn't be affected by the powder, and she would have to kill them one by one. Luo Qingtong's appearance startles everyone. Xuanhuan and Yu Xingqi behind him, their eyes lit up. Sister. You're fine. I said you'll be fine. Yu Xingqi hugs the little white cat and jumps in front of Luo Qingtong. Yes. Luo Qingtong looked at her with narrowed eyes. Xuanhuan directly shakes his sleeves. Boom. In an instant, the man was like a demon king descending from the heavens, attacking the people from the Bai family holiday villa. If it's watching people killing people, you then watching Xuanhuan as people as Xuanhuan's movements were elegant, his bearing was gorgeous. Walking through the blood-red bodies of those people, there was an indescribable beauty. Bang! When he landed on the ground, no one from the Bai family holiday villa was spared. Master. Suyu and those people in the underground secret room heard the commotion and came out after dealing with Bai Jintang. The battle outside has already come to an end. Luo Qingtong looks at them then nods her head. And let's go. Bai family's goal in coming to Fenghua City is still waiting for her to act. Thinking that the Bai family's experts have already gone ahead. Luo Qingtong's lips slightly curl. This clear heart purple jade fruit could strengthen Luo Qingtong's spiritual power, and for beasts, it could increase their intelligence. Roar! As the clear heart purple jade fruit was about to ripen, an extremely burly figure suddenly appeared on the barren hill in the distance. An invisible aura of lightning lingered around the figure. The huge beast looked like an ape beast, but it had a body of elegant purple hair that covered its entire body. Lightning beast. Seeing the appearance of the lightning beast, the Bai family's people who were lying in ambush on the distant hill instantly froze. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.